Okay, so this morning you heard about where is the location of Mahendragiri. So when we are looking for a location, that is searching for a location in space, I am going to talk about when did the Ramayana happen. That is looking for an event in time. Almost 125 years ago, Swami Vivekananda said that definitely study Sanskrit, but also along with it, study Western science. Learn accuracy, coherent argumentation. Study and labor so that a time will come when we will able to put our history on a scientific basis. For now, and by that he meant 1891, our history is disorganized. So my focus of my today's talk is only to convince you, the first part, that Ramayana did not happen even a day late than 10,000 BCE. That's 12,000 years ago or sometime before that. No ifs, no buts. What we will begin with, can you do the, excuse me, someone, can you do the presentation mode, please? Okay, all right. So what I was going to show there is, in our times, Sir Karl Popper of London School of Economics, a great philosopher of science, he describes the triangle of science as explanation, prediction, and testing. In the context of the background knowledge, the realized knowledge. And what I wanted to show you was, while he said this in this century, thousands of years ago, we don't know the exact timing of Bhagwan Patanjali, but Patanjali said the same thing in even extremely discrete format. He said, Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agama, Pramanani. That is from Samadhipad, Shlok 7. Pratyaksha, that is the testing, objective testing, empirical proof that Dr. Gumasta referred to. Explanation, in case of Valmiki Ramayana, is the Shabda Praman of Valmiki's description. And prediction is actually the outcome for the timing of Ramayana. In the Valmiki Ramayana, there are more than 500 specific astronomy and chronology references, close to 600. And I categorize them into two categories. The first one, I call it near-Earth phenomenon. These are the positions and phases of the moon, the positions of the sun, eclipses, comets, and so on. Now, they repeat every 15 days, every month, every year, every 2 years, every 12 years, every 30 years, or some combination. Now, these time periods are very short when you look at the phenomenon of astronomy. But there is a second set, I call it the effect due to the precession of equinoxes, and I'll briefly describe what it is. Now, this is also cyclical, but it's a very long cycle of 26,000 years. It is well known in modern astronomy, but there are tons of references into our Vedic literature all over, referring to this precession of equinoxes. And what I'm going to talk is take 4 references from this long-term phenomenon of 26,000 years and show you, like to convince you, why Ramayana did not happen even a day late than 10,000 BC. Quickly, this is the picture you will see if you look at the night sky, focus on the North Pole, and you will see all the stars of the northern hemisphere go around the North Pole, the Dhruva Tara. Now, what we also know, although Dhruva means Sthira, but we also know something, that this Dhruva is Sthira for a short time. Actually, the Earth's axis, where it points to, it also does its ayan, like a Ramayana. it rotates and completes one circle, and that takes 26,000 years. That is that cycle. So as you go back in time, you'll find our Dhruvatara, or the pole star, changes. So for example, if you go back to 12,000 BCE, which is 14,000 years ago, you'll find that our current star, Polaris, was not the pole star, but Brahma Rashi, or Abhijit, or Vega was our pole star. So now we have the background knowledge of astronomy. We will start with the Shabda Praman of Valmiki Ramayana. We will do a quick objective testing, and we will infer or predict from that triangle. In Yuddha Parva, Lakshmana is saying this. They are leaving from Kishkinda and approaching Lanka. Lakshmana is describing the night sky. And he is describing the pole star of Ramayana times. And what is he saying? Brahma Rashir Vishuddhasya Shuddhasya Paramarshya Archishmanta Prakashante Dhruvam Sarve Pradakshinam. Brahma Rashi is the pole star. It has become fixed, settled, because that's what pole star does. And the sages are roaming around this pole star. So Polaris, now you can see the whole slide, but this left-hand corner is where our current pole star is. The total cycle is 26,000 years. So if you go halfway, about 13,000 years, so 11,000 BC, that is when Brahma Rashi was the pole star. We can find out accurately exactly when the timing was. That was around 12,000 BC. And it may last as a pole star for plus minus 1,000 years. So if we do that, we get 10,000 BCE as the lower limit, when Brahma Rashi was our pole star, when we go back in time, the latest interval. That's my reference number 1. Let's go to the second reference. This is from Aranyakand. Again, Lakshmana is describing the position of the sun at the end of Hemanta Rutu. The Hemanta Rutu ended just 2 days ago on the winter solstice. And if you would have noticed, as soon as the sun set, the nakshatra that you would have seen would be Uttarashada or Shravan in our times. In Ramayana times, Lakshmana is saying, Nivrutta Akasha Shayana Pushyanita Himaruna. At the time of Hemanta Rutu, sun is setting on nakshatra Pushya. So if you use the precision of equinoxes, understanding of it, you have to go halfway through this 26,000 year circle, and that will take you. So this is the range, and it will take you to this time period of 11,000 BCE to 17,500 BCE. That is my second reference. The third reference, when we look at Chaitra Shukla Naumi, Ram Janma, in our times it's very hot season because it appears in the second month of Vasanta Rutu. And we know for sure, although we celebrate it, we know Ramayana did not happen in our time. Even if you go back by, say, 2,000 years, you will still find it was the first part of Vasanta Rutu. And again, Ramayana did not happen definitely 2,000 years ago. On the other hand, the description of month of Chaitra in the Ramayana time is Chaitram Sri Manayam Masa Punya Pushpita Kanana, where the forests are blooming with flowers. So if you have to go back beyond 2,000 years, you have to skip all the way through the winter months, possibly through the Hemant Rutu, and get to the time of what we call now, say, September, October, our Vijayadashmi time or Diwali time. So if you have to go back to see the forest blooming with flowers again, we will go back through with the help of this precision of equinoxes. And that also takes us to a time period which is 10,500 BC or beyond. And then I'll quote the fourth reference. It comes in Kishkinda Kand. Angad and Hanuman and Vanar party is searching for Sita. They left Kishkinda at the end of Sharad Rutu, And actually, if you read the Valmiki Ramayana descriptions, they have gone, Kishkindakand, they have gone through the season of Hemant Rutu, Shishir Rutu, and Angad is now worried. And he's saying, I see all the signs of Vasanta Rutu, and even the month of Ashwin is passing away. Vayam Ashvayuje Masi, Kala Sankhya Vyavastita, Prastita Sopi Chatita, Kimatah Karyamuttaram. How are we going to achieve our purpose? And if you again use the precision of equinoxes to go back and find out the time when Vasanta Rutu matches with lunar month of Ashwin, again you get the time limit of 11,800 BC or before. Valmiki Ramayana also has a reference of Indra Dvaja Utsav. Actually it comes like 4 times. And a flag of Indra being dropped on the floor at the Ashwin Purnima. Now that I think is a precursor to what you consider in Maharashtra Gudi Padwa. And those of you from Nepal, if you know the tradition, they have the tradition of actually Indra Dvaja Utsav. And it is celebrated in the month of Bhadrapad and Ashwin. So they stuck with the month. Somehow the tradition of Maharashtra stuck with the time period, which is the Vasanta Rutu. So if you and it also appears in Mahabharata, by the way. So if you consider that, it is a tradition of almost 14,000-year-old tradition that is being continued in some form. All right, so sorry, you can't see all that is typed there. So if you look at these 4 different observations, we can say that 10,000 BC is the lower limit. So that's starting with our 2016, our year, going backwards, not to the scale, 10,000 BCE. And if you look at the overlapping interval between these 4 observations, it comes to around from 14,000 BCE to 10,000 BCE. And then there are many, many other observations. For example, mention of a comet near Nakshatra Mula at the time they're leaving for Lanka. And I have employed that to come up with a date of 12,209 BCE as the year of Ram Ravan Yuddha. Again, I won't be able to do it in 20 minutes, but the point being there are more than 500 plus astronomy references. I have come up with a timeline. Again, it's open to criticism. In fact, what I want is people to take this triangle of explanation, prediction, and testing, Shabda Praman and empirical proof, and find holes into my arguments. Okay? And that's what is required to progress further, our knowledge of the timing of Mahabharata. I also want to end up with stating 2 references to state some limit on the upper side, because we also hear different claims. Some people say it happened 1.7 million years ago, 1.2 million years ago, many million years ago. And that could be true for all it matters. But we cannot just state a statement, because Valmiki Ramayana itself doesn't have any evidence whatsoever that will take us to any of those dates. But 2 references from Valmiki Ramayana that potentially gives you something to think about. Nakshatra Rohini is mentioned many times in the context of planets afflicting this nakshatra. And from the astronomy, what you can say is this. If you go back, say 100,000 years, 1 lakh years, Nakshatra Rohini is no longer a nakshatra, no longer a functional nakshatra. It goes far away from the ecliptic, so it cannot be used as a nakshatra. So that possibly gives you a 1.5 lakhs or 150,000 BCE as the upper limit, beyond which we may not able to tally up with the evidence of Valmiki Ramayana. And there is a second set of works, someone from Madhya Pradesh, Padma Shri Wakankar, many of you know that name. He did a lot of work on Saraswati. And Frankfurt from France, they took this work further, and they have done a lot of work. This is going back 30 years on Saraswati. And then recently, Clift and others, they have also done research in the context of Saraswati, Yamuna, and we find lots of references of Yamuna in Valmiki Ramayana, but based on their research work, geological research work, they have concluded that Yamuna did not separate from Saraswati and merge with Ganga before 50,000 BC. So that is another geological evidence for something to consider. All right, I have written 2 books. One is on the Mahabharata, another one on the Ramayana. I'll encourage you. I have considered more than 800 specific references, 200 plus from Mahabharata, close to 600 from Ramayana, and analyze this and come up with a specific timeline, chronology. All right, and I have a blog. I have written more than 400 articles on that blog, focusing on ancient Indian history, and mostly Ramayana and Mahabharata. I also have books there on Amazon, paperback, Kindle, and also a few YouTube videos. Thank you.